Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host for this episode, Rachel Fiori, and I am incredibly excited for this episode because I have a very special, phenomenal guest. And as you all know, we rarely ever have any guests on this show ever. So I would love to welcome Cobly Rebel to the show. And just in case you don't know who that is, Cobly Rebel is an award-winning international celebrity psychic medium, best-selling author, and host of the acclaimed Cobly Rebel Show podcast. Renowned in her ability to help clients navigate transition and find clarity, she has become one of the most sought-after psychic mediums of our time. She was awarded the distinguished title of Best Psychic of Los Angeles in 2022. Her expertise in the afterlife has made her the go-to medium for television and cinema. She's been featured on Travel Channel's True Terror, MTV's Teen Moms, and been named the official psychic for star-studded movie premieres. Her insights and predictions have been featured in national news outlets and magazines, including Us Weekly, ABC, CBS, and Fox. And I could go on for another 20 minutes about this incredible woman, but instead we're going to dive right in and welcome you, Cobly Rebel.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. That's quite the intro, but I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. So our topic for today is there is no goodbye, what happens when we die. And I am so ready to dive into this and just share your expertise, your abilities as a medium. Before we get into the actual topic, can you explain for those who, most people that listen to me, psychic mediums are not anything new. They're very familiar with it. But when did you start realizing that you actually had this gift? And then when did you actually start acting on the gift? Because those are sometimes not one and the same.
Oh, exactly, right? And there's many of us. I think there's many ways that someone can open their gifts. They're open at birth. Sometimes we close them down. Sometimes through a near-death experience, they're opened, or through trauma. For me, my first experience was at the age of 4. But I didn't, and I went in soul spirit. It never shut down for me. So I was very, very lucky in that way. But I don't think anybody around me said, "Oh, she's a medium." We just said, "Oh, that's weird. Don't talk to her about it."
Yes.
We don't know what's happening, but don't say anything. It might be bad luck. so, um,
Yep.
so it was about 13, 14 years ago now that really, as you know, Rachel, when your calling is awoken, there's lots of nudges from the universe, lots
Yeah.
of kind of knocking at the door, we say. And it was just opening up so quickly and so much, and so many voices inside my head. And like many mediums, I go, "Oh my gosh, am I crazy? Am I having a breakdown? What is happening?" And it
Sure.
was just this like coming together of, no, this is your purpose. Like, this is what you are meant to do. And so, I left my corporate tax accounting career and became a professional medium. And I've been doing that ever since. And I just really love it. It's very natural and it's very fun. And I really, really just enjoy that I get to kind of serve spirit each and every day.
I love that. I love it. And okay, this is what sparked in me. You had another career, you were doing other things, of course,
Yeah.
and you didn't grow up. What I gathered for this, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I gathered from what you shared, you didn't grow up like, "Ooh, I wanna be a medium," right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I didn't even know they existed. I mean, I don't think I would have known that was a career. Like, huh?
exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And I love this, and I'm pointing this out to our listeners for a reason. A lot of times, our sole purpose isn't even on our radar growing up. It's not
Yeah.
even on our radar. And it doesn't mean the gifts aren't there and there aren't things related to it that you're intuitively doing, but a lot of times what your soul is here to do isn't something that, "Oh, I wished it as a child." I think a lot of people have that misperception. It doesn't mean it can't be, but I wanted to point that out. It's not like you thought, "Oh, this is something that I can do and help other people in the world and actually make it my career as well."
Yeah, and it's not only that, I mean, thinking back, I really struggled with allowing myself to be a
Mm.
professional medium because if you tell someone, "Oh, I'm a tax accountant," it's very, respected. It's a
Accepted.
respected career, it's accepted, it's everyone needs an accountant and I thought, "How am I gonna tell people I'm now a psychic medium?" Like, people are gonna and I was so worried and concerned about the judgment of others. So, like I really teach my students to really come out of the spiritual closet. I had to come out of the spiritual closet.
Yes.
And now, it's interesting. I don't think twice about it. I tell people what I do. I don't mind. And you find too what I think is interesting. Once you're really doing what you're meant to do, you find so much more support than you could
Yeah.
possibly imagine.
Yeah.
It's very, very loving and kind. And gosh, I mean, we're very lucky to be light workers in this world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think also it's the people who don't understand and who criticize or judge or, are the haters out there who wanna attack. It doesn't matter anymore. It's who cares? Because you're doing what your soul is here to do, and everybody's going to be on their path of awakening in divine timing for them, right? So it's also the things roll off your back, and that fear of what are people going to think tends to just heal, and you elevate out of it when you're actually fulfilling your soul purpose. That's at least what
Yes.
I have found. And have you found that to be the
Oh,
same?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it's just, regardless of anybody who may judge, there's so much support from your
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
Your team is there. There's so much love that you feel and so much peace, right?
Yeah.
When you're serving your purpose, there's a whole level of peace that was missing before, honestly.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. It's so true. And so, with your abilities, being a psychic medium, there is no goodbye. I
Right.
think a lot of people listening are already kind of understand that. They know that we're eternal beings and the truth of what we are. The body dies, but we actually don't. Our consciousness lives on and all of that. But we there is no goodbye. What happens when we die? That's our title and our topic for today. So can you take us through your experience and what you know about what happens when we do die? Like, what happens when we die? Where do we go? What happens to our soul? And how can people better connect with and communicate with their loved ones other than absolutely connecting with you to get your help?
Yeah. Well, let's start with what happens when we die. So the physical body, I believe, is the capsule that keeps us in the physical world, right? So your physical body keeps you in the physical world. When we die, obviously that physical body goes away, but the soul within the body survives. The soul survives what we would consider physical death. That soul then crosses what we call the veil. It's just like another realm. Think of it as an invisible wall between our world and the spirit world, nothing more than this wall. And so that soul now resides on the other side of the veil, resides on the other side of the wall. And it can simply just cross through and come in and be next to you. So people think, oh, say hi to my loved one for me. And it's like, you say hi, they can hear you.
Yes.
They're right here. And so we kind of think of it as a little bit, within our aura, right on the outside of the aura, and you get all these teachers with these ideas and all this But, at the end of the day, I like to just make it simple. Just imagine them next to you because they are. And I really believe it's interesting. The idea of heaven is, in order to connect to spirit, you have to raise your vibration. The vibration is higher. So within our mind's eye, we think higher, high up. So I believe that
Yes.
that's what gives us the concept of heaven. And in the spirit world, because again, it's not physical, really, right? It's not a physical, tangible table, chairs, furniture. It really is much more about an essence of pure love and pure connection, and everybody's together, and there's no negative emotions. I believe the lower vibrational emotions of sadness, depression, anger, those are emotions only of the physical world.
Yes.
And so once the body dies, we release those emotions. We don't even carry them with us in our spirit, in our soul. So you can easily communicate back and forth with your loved ones. Now, what happens? What do they show a medium, right? What do they show us? And sometimes they will show me their physical body. They will show me what they look like. Maybe not exactly what they look like at the point of death, always. It
Yeah.
may be going back in time. Where did they feel good in their lives? What do they want to represent? And so, they will show me, or if someone had an illness, like say they couldn't walk or were paralyzed or bedridden, they may show me themselves walking or being strong.
Yeah.
And they show me with a body, but they're just doing that so I can communicate it effectively to their loved one of like, oh, this is what they're like, or this is what they're showing me. And the person will say, oh, that's what they were always like before, or that's what they were
Yeah.
like when they were younger, something like that. So it's pretty unbelievable. Um, but they observe us a lot, right? They're around you a lot. They observe
Yeah.
you a lot. That's how they'll know if you've done something recent to your hair, or you put something out on a table, or they love to show validation that they are around you. And they do that,
Yeah.
through signs. They do that through symbols, but they also, like I said, do it through bringing up maybe something you've just done, as just a validation of we are here, we are around you.
Yeah. I love this. Absolutely. So I get it. I've gotten a lot of questions in the past. How do you know it's really them? And I
Yeah,
think that's our and let me be clear that to our listeners that that is your lack consciousness. That is your I need to be convinced or prove it. That means also that you're closing down and you're not open enough to just receive the messages that are right there.
yeah,
That when your loved ones do visit you, when they are hanging out with you, that you have the ability, that intuition, that nudge to know that they're right there,
yeah,
right? So, do you have suggestions for those listening of how to open themselves a little bit
yeah,
more and not second
absolutely.
guess?
Yeah, and I think being a bit skeptical in a healthy way is a good thing, right? It's just,
Right.
being a tax accountant, I needed my I's dotted, T's crossed. I needed to reconcile. And I do that a lot in my mediumship as well. But to your point of like, I need this proven to me, some of it is, I think, fear.
Yeah.
What if they believe and they're open and their loved one doesn't come for them, their loved one doesn't visit? And so I do actually think some people work from a place of fear. What
Yes.
what
Yeah.
if I'm not loved enough that they will come? What if it's not real? What if I believe and it's not real? So here's what I say: you have nothing to lose by believing. Okay. You have nothing to lose. If you're one of those people that think once your physical experience is over, that's it, you go back into the earth and nothing more, then what's wrong with having some hope, joy in your life until that day, until that moment, right? But
Love it.
what if you don't believe in it and you cross over and your mother or father or your best friend is standing there saying, How could you turn your back on the flowers I sent you? How could you not notice the hummingbird I sent every morning by
Yes.
your window? I was calling you and you wouldn't answer the call. You wouldn't answer the phone. So, ask yourself, what really do you have to lose? Now, there are some other people who simply they don't know how to kind of expand the awareness, right? Expanding
Right.
your awareness is how you're going to see those signs or symbols. So it's being more attuned. So it really is heightening your senses. You're seeing, hearing, feeling, knowing, tasting, smelling, and sharpen them. That's the best way. Sharpen them. Use your peripheral vision, right? Because that's where spirit's really going to come in through that peripheral. So practice,
Love it.
practice standing out your backyard. There's a bunch of different exercises, but stand out, let's just say your backyard. One is blindfold yourself, right? Sit and blindfold and listen. How many sounds can you pick up? The birds, the dog barking. Do you hear the trash truck? Do you hear cars going by? Do you hear lawn mowers? As many sounds as you can possibly pick up and as far away as you can pick them up. Then take the blindfold off. How many colors can you capture in a moment? Look all around you, close your eyes, then use recall. What exactly is where? What can you see? Practice that peripheral vision. That's really what's going to help you really expand the awareness. And so let's say too, some things are more subtle than you realize, right? I think
Yes.
those signs and symbols can be very subtle. So if, let's say, you're looking and just out of the corner of your eye, a bird just happens to catch your attention, and it maybe just turns for a second or pauses for a second or does something, that is absolutely a sign, like you're being drawn to it. Okay. If you hear a song on the radio and it makes you think of that loved one, it's
Yes.
because that loved one sent you the song. So a lot of times we think, oh, I reach out to get it. But really, it's more that loved one already sent that bird or that
Yes.
animal. That's why it's pausing. That's why it's kind of creating it to try to get your attention. That's why the song randomly comes on. It's why you randomly come across a coin or a feather or whatever it is that makes you think of that loved
That
one.
person. Yes, I love this.
Yeah.
I think people often I love this, just a beautiful reminder, because I
Yeah.
think sometimes people get those and they immediately think of their loved one, and then they're like, "Nah," and they just
Yeah.
kind of push it to the side instead of realizing what it actually is, that your loved one is saying hello. They are
Yeah.
saying that I'm here. I never left you. I'm right here.
Yeah, and I think what's really I love giving something that isn't even in the awareness of the person in that moment. Like
Mhm.
I did an event a couple weeks ago where a lady's husband came through and I said, "He's telling you that the rainbows are his sign for you." And she's like, "Oh, really? I'll look for them." I said, "Yes. Now, it may be a physical or you may see a picture with a rainbow, but know
Yes.
that that is him saying hello." And she said, "Okay, I will pay attention." The next morning, she sends an email to me saying, I can't believe it. It's this is amazing. I open up, I go on my Facebook and a memory pops up of my husband and there's a beautiful rainbow right behind him in the photo. And I was like,
Oh.
"See? He's saying hello."
Oh, that is so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
but think
love
about
that.
from her point of view, right? Like you've got this message and you believe anyway, but just the thing to open up your computer the next morning and there's your gorgeous husband, a beautiful rainbow behind him, and the medium just said last night he said he's sending you the rainbows. It's like that it's such a beautiful validation and evidence that our loved ones, like you said, they are with us, Rachel, right?
Yes.
They do not
Yes.
leave us.
Yes. And they come and support you in trying times and times when you're afraid or you're sad or you're frustrated about what's happening or your world is falling apart or whatever's happening. They come, that you don't have to ask them to come. That
Yes.
I want people to hear that. They're right here. They come. You don't even have to call to them. They're right there. And
Yes.
you can feel them and sense them, just pay attention, because they will give you those signs. And sometimes, as Colby already said, they're, your loved ones are giving you little messages that maybe you're missing, you're not paying attention to, you're not in tune with. And then they'll give you louder ones sometimes. Like
Yes.
they'll do the louder, messages. And my invitation to those listening is to not say, now wait, what was that really? Because
Oh,
I just asked for that and I got it. No, you just asked for it and you got it. That's the
yeah.
miracle.
Show me again, though. I need to see it
Yes,
again to believe you, okay?
right.
Do it again for me. If you're really real, do it again. That's another one. And you know what's also interesting, Rachel, is a lot of times if someone's going through something very, very difficult in their
Yeah,
life, they're saying to their loved one, "Please fix this, make it better for me." And our loved ones can't. Like,
right.
you may need to go through that experience because it's part of your journey,
Yes,
and even as a spirit, the mother might ache to see you going through it, but she can't not have you go through it if it's part
yes,
of your spiritual journey, your soul's journey.
exactly. I love that you shared that, but they are there loving you emotionally, energetically, supporting
Yes.
you through it, and I
Yes.
love that you brought that up. They're not there to take it away. They're there
No.
to love you through your challenging times, because we learn and grow from those very times.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing that I'd love to share with your listeners, if you don't mind, is dreams, because there's a
Yeah,
lot of times someone has a dream and they don't know if that's a visitation from their loved one, or just a nightmare or a dream. So
mhm,
there's a real easy way to discern, is it a visitation or is it simply a dream? The visitation will be very specific in your dream. They may not
beautiful.
speak, so you can't expect for your loved one to talk to you. They may just look at you a certain way. They may hold your hand or sit by you, but there will be a feeling of love from them, an unbelievable feeling of love. You will then wake up feeling loved in that moment. So that's one way, and it will feel very good and very uplifting. You will also remember every detail of the dream. You will just
Mm,
remember the details. Now, if let's say there's yelling or there's screaming or there's fighting or they're saying something negative in the dream to you and you wake up more like a nightmare,
mhm,
this is more of your subconscious trying to reconcile something that
yes,
you weren't able to reconcile in the living. Maybe
yes,
you didn't get a chance to say goodbye and you feel guilty. Maybe you had an opportunity to visit them and you said, "I'll see them next week," and then they pass.
yep,
Maybe there was some estrangement in that relationship, and that's difficult that we have those situations, but they exist. So a lot of times those could be just something that either you're holding on to or you didn't get a chance to say or there wasn't that reconciliation. So that's just your subconscious trying to find peace with that.
beautiful. Beautiful, and I love that. I'm sure the listeners appreciate that discernment so much. That is so helpful. And I'm gonna go back to one thing that you've mentioned already, and that's talk to them. They
Yeah.
hear you, they're right there. Like,
Yeah.
talk to them. They will give you more not always. I mean, they're not your slaves here, but ask them, like, just let them know. Talk to them openly from your heart. They're right there with you.
Yes.
I am gonna share a story, 'cause I thought of this when you brought this up. So, I mean, probably 20 years ago, a very long time ago, when I was first opening up to my own mediumship, realizing that what mediumship even was. 'Cause, we growing up, it wasn't out on social media. Social
Yeah.
media didn't exist, right? So it was weird, and you don't tell anybody about it. And when I was realizing, "Oh, this is what I've been doing," and I wasn't sure what to do with it or where to go with it. But my father passed 1 week after my 5th birthday, and I felt him around my entire life, but he was coming around a lot at this phase of the game, like, "Hello, wake up to all your gifts. It's time to use them. Like, you've." And I remember him being in my living room, and I knew he was there, but I was also still like, I didn't know what to do with this or where to go next or how to communicate the right way. So I literally said to him, "Okay, dad, like I know it's you, but if it really is you, can you just knock on the front door?" And before I finished the word, boom, 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 pounding, a pounding on my front door. I jumped up, the dogs barked, scared the shit out of me, and then I just started laughing and I was like, that's my dad.
Yeah.
That's my dad. And I'm
Oh,
sharing that story because it went with his personality of kinda
yes.
like, "Oh, you wanna ask me really? Because you already know it's me." Boom, boom, and he just pounded on that front door. I mean, I even ran and opened the door, but I was like, "This is okay." I knew immediately, "Okay, I don't
Yeah.
need anything that blatant." Like, I knew
Yeah,
you were
I
here.
got it.
Thank
Got it.
you.
Yes, got it, Dad. But yeah, I think that's, they will show us and they will give it to us. Now, what happens? Sometimes someone says, well, I was getting a lot of signs, but now I have nothing. There hasn't
Mm,
been any
yeah,
traction, no visits. But there's two things, two possible reasons. One is that you've gotten used to it. Like initially, if you felt them close, you may have gotten a chill. And now you're used to that vibration. So that chill isn't necessarily there anymore. You're
yes,
used to them being in your aura. You're used to them being in your space. So you don't have
yes,
that jarringness that
yes,
sometimes we have initially. The second thing too is I believe, you come to the earth plane, you come into the physical world, you have a bunch of beautiful lessons, some good, some bad, some indifferent, and we move on.
yep,
But it's all part of the journey. Your soul also has lessons, right?
yes,
So the
yeah,
soul itself has soul school. So it may be your loved one may be in a class and that's why you're not feeling them. They may
yes,
be in a particular moment where they're working through something that they didn't get to finish or that they didn't quite capture or whatever the case may be. And so you could be experiencing that
yeah.
as well.
Beautiful. I love that because I can tell you that there was a very long time in my life growing up throughout my childhood where, I always felt my father.
Yeah.
And there came a time where I realized, "Oh, wait a minute. Like you're still attached. Like you're too
Yeah.
attached here. Like you need to go do your thing in the spirit world. Um like you need to take a break for like you're not alive anymore. It's been a long time." And there came a point in time where he left, and it was a long time. It was a couple years where it was almost, I couldn't feel him at all. He didn't come around anymore the way he used to. And I also knew though that he was in school. He
Yeah.
went to for his soul to accelerate and actually integrate those lessons from being alive in human form and expand in his wisdom and his, soul elevation. And he really was gone for a long time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he would come back once in a while and I would get this certain songs that he would play to catch my attention and let me know he's there. And he went several different times to go to school and go
Yeah.
learn more and expand more. And I can tell you he feels different now.
Yeah.
Now when he's
Well,
here, he came in recently for the next phase of what's coming for me and my journey. And I felt and he's around all the time now. And I'm like, wow, like you have wisdom. Dad, you didn't have that wisdom when you were alive. You were a bit of an idiot when you were alive. You have that wisdom now. And it's incredible that he did what he needed to do in order to bring that wisdom and still help, those of us here who could benefit from his help.
I agree. So what I love to do in a reading when I'm with a client is I tune into that loved one. Who were they in the earth plane? Who were they? What were they like? I think that's
Yeah.
really important. And then I'll say, well, this is actually how they feel now, or this is what they want to say now. And that's really
Wow.
important. So let's say, you had someone had a terrible relationship with their mother, right? And if I come in and say, "Oh, I have your mother," and she just feels so warm and so loving, she comes in and gives you a big hug, you're going to look at me and go, "You don't have my mom. That's
Yep.
not my mom. I don't know who you have, but yeah, not my mom." And so
Yeah,
I have to kind of start with point A. This is who she was. You would
right.
understand that. This is what it was like growing up with her, correct? Okay.
Yes.
This is what she wants to say about that. And this is who she is now. And this is how you would recognize her now. And even going back to signs and symbols. So, right, if someone didn't have a great relationship, they may be thinking that loved one isn't sending them signs or symbols.
Yeah,
Right? They're
yeah,
not gonna click and say that cardinal is from their mother because they didn't get a chance to reconcile. So,
absolutely.
this is why, that this is really why having an experience, with a quality medium is very,
Yes,
very important. You need a medium that is able to bring forth that validation and the evidence. And I believe very much in clairsentience. And for your listeners, that's feeling, right?
mhm,
It's the super sense of feeling. So I feel spirit a lot. I get a lot of impressions. I don't know if that's how you work, Rachel, but I get a lot of impressions and they make me feel a certain way. And
yes,
I think that's a beautiful experience, and I love doing it, and I love sharing it with the sitter. Like, oh, they're making me feel this right now,
yes.
or this is how they were. Or so it is. I think readings, an experience with a medium can be very, very, very good. You just have to really connect to the right medium. I think that's really important.
I agree. I agree. So it's so important. And one of the reasons why I think that's important is that a lot of times we want the messages because we are sad or unhealed or the
Yeah.
loss, the grief is still really there. We're our heart aches because we miss our loved ones. And sometimes depending on what life was like or what your even your traumas possibly were with that person, you need somebody who's skilled enough where they're not just dabbling in it. They're not
Yes.
just playing around like, "This is fun." I mean, and it is fun. The funnest stuff that I do is all the psychic stuff, and I'm sure you can say the same thing, Colby. This is what you do. It is fun. It's amazing, and yet it isn't a joke.
No.
It isn't a
No.
joke that the people in front of you, you're there to care for them. So do you have any advice on anybody looking for a medium other than to go to you? Of course, that's our number one advice is to go to Colby. That's of
Well,
course our number one, but what would people look for to understand if they are with somebody who is really highly skilled versus maybe somebody who's not quite ready enough to be doing this?
Well, I think some things that are really important, if you have a medium that's saying they're naturally gifted, but they really haven't continued in a formal way, I think that's important to take a look at because we're all naturally gifted. Okay. We're
Yes.
all naturally gifted. Someone's not teaching you to be a medium. But when you train and when you develop deeper, you understand how to interpret in a deeper, more meaningful, empathetic way. You know how to deliver more compassionately. Because otherwise, if you have someone who doesn't have enough experience, training,
Yeah.
it can create disaster.
Yeah.
I always tell this story. I connect to pets as well, and I always tell this story. I had a client come in, and she was distraught because she had her baby, her little beautiful baby, uh, and a medium told her that dog was stuck. This dog could not fully cross over because
Oh.
the client was too much in grief over the dog. So
Oh.
she blamed the client that so first and foremost, nobody gets stuck. Okay. The spirit is never stuck. It's the highest form of intelligence. They're not stuck. And certainly they're not going to be stuck because you're grieving them. So please don't let anyone try to guilt you into anything with your loved one. But I was able to tell her about her dog, things that she's been doing, give her the validation that the dog has been around her, but give her other validations that have happened. And it literally changed her life after that session. It
Oh.
really helped her depression. It really helped give her hope again. And I think that that's just so, so important. So I think just find one and resonate. So here's a great thing about it. Your loved one is going to pick the medium anyway. Um,
Yes,
so do
beautiful.
some research and see who speaks to you, who you feel drawn to. That's really important. And the last thing is, I know we all want to save a buck, but going to the least expensive medium isn't always the right answer. Are you going to go to the least expensive hairdresser to get your hair done? Are
Yeah,
you going to the least expensive nail person to get your nail done? Sometimes that quality comes with a price tag, and that
absolutely.
that has something to do because if that medium is valid, they've spent a lot of money on training, on
Yes,
being professional, on creating that business, and they may not be working another job. This may be the only way, so they have car payments and mortgage, and like anything else, it's an actual career.
absolutely.
So I think that that's important. That doesn't mean someone inexpensive can't be amazing, and it doesn't mean someone expensive is
Can't be
always
crap.
amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
but, it says a lot though. There's usually you have a much better chance, I think, kind of following those simple guidelines.
I love that you said that. I love that you said that because it comes down to education and training in our
Yeah.
skills, our crafts, what we're here to do. And I mean, you are preaching to the choir when it comes to that because I scream that from the rooftops all the time. Like
Yeah.
everybody has skills, everybody has natural gifts, but what are you doing to expand and grow the natural ability that you have to make sure the training that you have is
Yeah.
worth what you're charging for. And just to
Yeah.
throw out there for anybody, let's say that you can't afford the best psychic medium or whatever it is that you're going to get help with. What if you can't afford it, but you really still want it? Just have an open, honest conversation, a check in with the person you're paying, because you can say, hey, do your prices reflect your level of experience? And if so, that's okay. Sometimes it's okay to go to somebody who's not as experienced in order to save a buck if that's what you need to do, but understand where they're at.
Right.
And it is okay if you have less experience. In the way of truth, in the way of integrity, we should be charging less when we don't have as much of experience. We should
Absolutely.
You don't charge just because that person charges a lot. Like,
Yes.
I
Yes.
never did that when I was younger. People would ask me, "Why are you not charging triple what you're?" I'm like, "Because I know that I am not a master yet. And until I am, I'm not charging the master level prices because I actually have integrity." That's the
Yeah.
difference between me and a lot of people. And so I love you, Colby, for bringing that up. I think the people who spend all of their time and money and energy and effort into their training and their craft absolutely deserve to get paid the higher prices. They're worth the higher prices. So let's keep that in mind when we're choosing for our
Yeah.
listeners out there.
Yeah.
Um, so having said that, what can people expect with a reading from you? How long do you read? Where can they go to find you to get a reading? Can you tell us a little bit more about your process?
Oh, absolutely. So I do 50-minute sessions. So it's 50 minutes, and we can do this Zoom, over the phone, in person in Los Angeles. So that's how I do it. And the way I do it is kind of different because it's so conversational. I mean, I've gotten readings, and they feel so like forced, I think, sometimes. And for me, it's just natural. And I don't know if that's just because I've been doing it since I was 4. Um, but I love to just make it a conversation, just you, me, and your loved one. And I'll bring in something and I'll share it. And it's a story, and we go into it, and maybe something that would make them laugh, or something they did that makes you laugh, because all of that is evidence as well, right? I
Yeah.
I really do my best so that you feel them in the room with us, so that you really feel them, not just that that
Yeah.
they're there, or that they're around you, but that you feel that they are around you. And that, I think, is extremely powerful. And it's fun. I love readings. I love doing them.
Yeah.
I never get tired. I've never woken up and said, "Oh, I just don't want to do readings today." Like, never. It has not happened.
Yeah.
Um I think it's exciting. I think it's such an honor to be able to serve spirit, and whether it's a psychic or mediumship reading, really. I love being
Yeah.
able to tune into someone's life and just really help them through something, or where they feeling a little stuck that they're needing guidance. This isn't, psychic reading isn't about giving you the blueprint for the rest of your life and that's exactly how everything's coming out. It's more
Yes.
about tuning into your soul. What's your soul worrying about at this moment? Where fear are you harboring that's preventing you from taking chances, next steps, from kind of keeping you caged? And so, I love just kind of doing that with people as well. I think at the end of the day, uh, we have a connection to souls, whether that
Yeah.
soul's in the physical or that soul's in spirit. It's really about being a soul communicator and having fun with that for sure.
Beautiful. I love that so much. And so here's my next question. So I want to say this first to our listeners, that you come into this world naturally with gifts. Everybody has different gifts, okay? And varying levels of those gifts. It is really critical important that no matter how gifted you are when you come in, that you really focus on cultivating, expanding those gifts, training, getting the education to help you be able to utilize those gifts to the best and highest form, your ability in this lifetime. So, when we realize that is the way of responsibility, these are universal ways of oneness that I teach. That's the way of responsibility. That's the way of trust. That's the way of integrity. That's the way of purity when you're here to offer those gifts. It also means that you're willing to go to teachers and learn from them in order to help elevate your gifts to higher levels. Do you teach people with their natural gift? Remember, if you're not a medium, you guys, you're not a medium. Like, but it doesn't mean you don't have the gift in there, right? If
Right.
you know you have that gift in there and you're ready to elevate and learn more and expand that gift and learn I don't want to, it's not accurate to say the right way, but the responsible way and also the safest way to use this gift. Do you actually, Colby, teach people? Do you have classes? Do you coach them in these abilities? Do you have anything like that that you offer?
I do a few different things. I do monthly development circles. So those are online. Think of it as your spiritual gym where, we'll do some exercises, some practices. People can ask questions. So I have a beginners and an advanced. Actually, they start this week. The advanced is on Tuesdays and the beginners is Wednesdays. But I also teach certain classes, some beginners, some advanced, and I teach one-on-one mentoring. And one of my passions, though, is helping people build a spiritual business as well. I really love when someone is ready to say, I really want to do this with my life, but I don't know how. I love taking that tax background and mixing it with the master spiritual teacher knowledge and giving them the components to help them really build a successful spiritual business. And some of that just is about confidence or structure or how to go about it, right? Because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people
Yeah,
don't know, regardless if they're a light worker or not, they don't know how to run a business. So it's
exactly.
important to, say, guide them, because at the end of the day, we need as many light workers working for the highest good as possible.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. That is amazing. Um, so all around gifted and talented you are. All around gifted and talented,
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very sweet. Thank you.
of course, and it's wonderful to have you here doing what you are here to do for people in all the ways that you're here to do that for people.
Thank you.
Um, is there anything else that you wanna share about mediumship specifically? Anything that you've found over the years that could help people? And I would love also, as you think about that, to touch on I think most people who would be listening to this already know this, but just in case there are some newbies that found me on here, um, I would love for you to talk about why and how a reading with your loved ones who have passed on can be incredibly healing. Can you touch on the healing aspect of it? Because I know that some people think, oh, if I go to medium, I won't have grief anymore. I think there's a
Right.
misunderstanding there sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I'll feel better about everything in a sense, but there is a different type of healing that I have found that people experience. And it doesn't mean you're not going to have pain anymore. You're not going to have grief anymore. But can you touch on what you've experienced in offering this to people, like the healing aspect of it when they do come to somebody like you for a reading?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the healing aspect, um, a reading gives someone an opportunity to say what was unsaid, and that can go both ways, right? To say
Beautiful.
what was unsaid, to own up to any regrets that you may have, or for that loved one to own up to regrets they have, maybe to give an apology, maybe to give a point of view, maybe
Yeah.
to reassure you that you don't need to be upset, or you don't need to worry, you don't need to be holding on to that feeling, that evidence also that they're not gone. Yes, you may not be able to hug them, you may not be
Yeah.
able to pick up the telephone, but that doesn't mean they're not there and that they are not around you. And hopefully that reading can validate and prove to you that they are around and they are with you. And so I think a lot of that is very helpful. If someone passed away traumatically,
Mhm.
just to share with someone what was that loved one thinking or feeling in that moment. I think there's a big misconception that as the soul is in the body at the time of death, that there's pain, but the soul actually leaves the body right prior. So the soul does not hang on to anything like that. And so just hearing that or knowing that,
Yes.
I think, can kind of release. So it can release guilt you may have, or give validation or comfort, or just those are the reasons why the healing can be so strong and
Yeah.
so deep. And so that's why we all do what we do, right?
Yes. Yes, I love this, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. And just to reiterate that this can be, I think Colby and I talked about earlier, um, talk to your loved ones, like, they're right there, they hear you, but when you don't have the feedback, if you don't have, maybe, this type of psychic ability and you're not sure, or even if you do, by the way, sometimes if you lost a loved one not too long ago and you're still in the grief phase, it can be really hard to hear. It can be
Yeah.
really hard to hear, even if you're a very gifted psychic medium. And that's okay. That's normal in our human emotions and being human and moving through our grief. Um, but I think what's beautiful is you can sometimes get the feedback from somebody who is not in their trauma, not in their grief. They're not moving through what you went through. They're an objective person who is there on some level to help in a healing capacity to bring messages to you that you might not be able to hear for yourself, or you're in too much emotional pain to hear for yourself, or to just get the feedback of hearing it come from someone else's voice who can clearly receive those messages. And I think touching back again on, like, the traumas, like, we lose loved ones in traumatic ways sometimes, and we don't get to say goodbye. I think that ability to connect with them and be able to just say what you wish you coulda said if you had one more day,
Yeah.
oh, I mean, just feel that, like, the
Yeah.
gift of that is so remarkable, I think. So, I think it's such a beautiful gift to have, and you're amazing for offering this to people. So,
Oh, thank you very, very much.
I think I would love for you to tell our listeners where to find you, what is the best place to find you, and where can they follow you and all that beautiful stuff so that if they don't first know who you are and how incredible you are, I'm telling you right now, go sign up for a mediumship reading, for a psychic mediumship reading with Colby. She's incredible. And I really want you to have this amazing, incredible experience with somebody who is so elevated and so experienced. It's You deserve this to get a reading from someone like Colby. So where can they find you, Colby?
Well, my website is colbyrebel.com, and that's where you can see if there's upcoming classes. We have on-demand classes, so you can watch something pre-recorded. So that's all the classes. They can book a session there with me. And on social media, it's at Cobly Rebel Medium. So just Cobly Rebel Medium, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that fun stuff is where they can follow me there.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So make sure you guys like, share, Share this with other people. Share this episode with other people. That would be beautiful if you could share this out and get more exposure for Colby. She's incredible. She's amazing. Go to her website, follow her on social media, check her out. And Colby, thank you for being here with me today.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. I really appreciate it. And I'm so excited you're going to be on my podcast. So I think
Yes.
that's going to be a lot of fun. We can continue the conversation.
I can't wait. I cannot
It's going to
wait.
be great. It's going to be great. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for teaching us today. I really hope that you gained some insight on what it is to be a medium and what mediumship actually is, where you can go to find one of the best ones that exists if you want to schedule a mediumship reading for yourselves. And if you want to learn more or have Colby back, I would love to hear in the comments. Ask your questions, comment so that we know we can answer more questions, and maybe we'll have Colby back and do something more specific, tailored to everybody's questions if you're curious. So please feel free to comment. Colby, thank you again for being here. And
Thank
thank you to
you.
our listeners. What a wonderful episode. Have a beautiful day, everybody. And we'll see you when we see you.